Just a heads up, the thoughts and opinions of this episode, like all of them, are all mine and might not necessarily reflect those of our sponsors. So if you find yourself raising an eyebrow, blame me, not them. Home sellers, you have been lied to for years, hell, decades. And even after several multi-billion-dollar lawsuits, real estate agents still doing it. I've sold over 2,500 homes, and today, out of sheer frustration, I'm pulling back the curtain on the traditional 6% commission model and showing you exactly how it fails you, how it punishes you, and drains you financially, all while agents pat themselves on the back for doing basically nothing. Welcome to Talking Realty, the podcast for home sellers who want to make more money, save time, and avoid headaches. I'm Glen, realtor and founder of the Ohio Property Group, where we do the same things as traditional realtors, but instead of charging a giant 6% commission, we charge a low, flat fee. So you keep more money and get better results. Check out all the free seller tools today at talkingrealty.com. And if you like the show, hit that subscribe button. Now, let's get to it. So the other day, we get an offer on one of our listings from a local realtor, pretty normal. And in the course of the usual back and forth, the seller and I noticed that in addition to the painfully predictable request for a 3% commission, there was a little plus sign and $425 tacked on. Don't know why. So curious, I sent back a quick email that just said, "What's the $425? The response is a quote, "All brokers charge a $425 administrative fee." Really? All brokers are charging a junk fee of exactly $425? I didn't know that. But wait, it gets better. So the seller decides to do a pretty reasonable counter. And in my world, offers are usually sent on a purchase contract, but it's not required. So even if that offer comes in on a text message, an email, or a paper airplane, it's still an offer by law, and I, by law, have to present it to the seller. So, per usual, I email the terms of the seller's counter and got a reply that said, again, quote, "All counter offers must be on state forms." No, that's just not true. Okay. The thing is, there's no specific method required by law, and very often counter offers are done by email, even text or phone. Not a great idea, but anyway. But we go this casual, verbal, written back and forth until the offer comes together or we have a meeting of the minds. Then we put it on a contract and everybody signs. So, what's my point? This agent is spouting things as though they're gospel, and 2 times in 3 emails managed to produce 100% certified organic bullshit. And if this agent is saying stuff to me, a fellow realtor, what in the world is this agent saying to the public? So my first idea was to turn this person over to the state and let them deal with it. I mean, this person has a license. Presumably they'd like to keep it. The state can make that decision, but really not my style, and it doesn't get my seller any closer to the finish line. So scrapped that one. My second idea was a very fiery educational email to the agent, hoping to make them, see the light and understand. But then I remembered something my mother used to say, which is never wrestle with pigs because you just get dirty and the pigs love it. I think you take my meaning, but you see, it doesn't matter what I do, what I say to the realtors. It doesn't matter what rules and laws change. None of that stuff matters. It doesn't even matter if they lose very publicly in court and have to pay hundreds of millions of dollars in penalties and settlements. If there's one thing I have learned from 25 years of mud wrestling with the realtor community is that they will do anything and everything to protect the status quo. Since about, 1492, something like that, real estate agents have been duping the public with a totally insane offer. If you list with me, I'll do a handful of things that may or may not help your property sell. In fact, I may not even do some of those things. But great news, no matter what I do or don't do, I keep 6% at closing. By the way, I only have 3 weeks of schooling, and statistically speaking, I have almost no experience. Finally, when I give advice, I'm probably going to put my need for a paycheck ahead of whatever your goals are. And bonus, if your buyer has no agent, I get to become a dual agent, fight for neither of you, but I get paid twice as much. Now, do we have a deal? And sadly, more often than not, the answer is yes. So what do we do? All right, stick around and I'll show you. Hey, real quick, if you're thinking about selling, don't do it without our ultimate home selling toolkit. It's completely free and it's packed with the exact contracts and checklists and forms and everything that we use to manage hundreds and hundreds of home sales a year. Whether you're by owner or you just want to know what to expect, this thing is pure gold. So download your free copy today at talkingrealty.com or check the show notes or the YouTube comments for that link. I'll make sure it's there. Seriously, hit pause, go do it now. I'll be right here when you get back. So let's start with the biggest and ugliest problem with the traditional real estate scam, the sliding 6% commission. Let's rewind to my lunch with my old buddy, Bob. He was considering listing two homes, one for $150,000 and one for $300,000. So at 6%, one would cost $9,000 to sell and the other one $18,000 to sell. Now, this is when I was with Remax, so I wasn't listing property, but he and I were having lunch to talk about it. He had just met with my boss, who was the listing guy. So Bob says during lunch, hey, on the second one, what do I get for the extra $9,000? I got no clue. Same service? Yeah. Same signs, same marketing, same paperwork, same advice. Yep. Everything's the same. I mean, it's like a mechanic charging you double for some job just because you have a nicer car. It's not tied to value. It's not tied to work or outcome or time. It's just a tax on success. But when you ask a traditional realtor about the old 6% commission, you're probably going to get some version of what I got in my opening email. And that's like, hey, that's what everybody charges. I'm sorry. Well, that is a lie, folks. It's a lie. And it's been established 100 times, several times recently in court. It is not what everyone charges. I can prove it because I'm a realtor and that's not what I charge. Also, the Sherman Antitrust Act prohibits competitors from getting together and agreeing to all charge the same fee. It's called price fixing. And actually, this month, yesterday, in fact, the Sherman Antitrust Act became 135 years old. So this thing's been around for a very long time. Somebody should probably tell the realtors. But it is strange when you think about it. Wherever you go, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter which state in the union you're in. It doesn't matter what decade you're talking about in living memory. And I'm kind of old, so I've been around a while. 6% has been around for as long as anybody I know can remember. Don't you find that weird? I mean, Florida, Washington, LA, New York, you know what? Puerto Rico. Puerto Rico is literally thousands of miles and a completely different culture from the United States. And we spend a lot of time here. Guess what? 6% somehow made it onto this island. And it's everywhere. This is just the norm. You ever wonder about that? I mean, I don't know how it got started, but I do know that the public has proven time and time again that they will pay it, assuming traditional realtors stick together and stick to the script. This would be some of the shenanigans that have come up lately. Anyway, lawsuits, law changes, apparently water off a duck's back to the realtor community. So there was a brief period after the laws changed and the MLS removed commissions from public view. However, it didn't take long. They were right back on the same old train. After pretty much a year, I think it's been almost a year now that this has been in effect, every seller I talk to, nearly every seller I talk to, says that local agents are still quoting the same, 5, 6, 7%. And pretty much every offer we see comes in where the buyer agent is asking for a 3% commission, or in some cases, 3% plus $425 admin fee that all the other brokers are charging and forgot to tell old Glen here. Well, that's okay. The point is that 6% has been and still is the norm. It's not fair, and it's not something the realtor community is ready to let go of, no matter how many lawsuits get thrown at them. So what do we do about it? What about a flat fee model where I charge a set fee based on the services I provide and not the price of the home? I mean, that seems like a great way to go. Somebody should give that a try. But enough about commission. Let's move on to the next lie. I call this one the cookie cutter service scam. Traditional agents, they offer you a menu, but the problem is it only has one thing on it. Kind of like that My Cousin Vinny, where they slap down the menu and it just says breakfast. That's what you get. One bundle of services: marketing, signs, showing, pricing, negotiation, paperwork, open houses, photography, social media, whether you need it, whether you want it, or even whether you ever get it, that's the deal. It is the deal. You pay 6%. These are the things they agree to do. Now, most sellers, they really don't know what they're paying for, and agents kind of depend on that fog or fuzziness, whatever you want to call it. And frankly, the reason they depend on it is because they've worked really, really hard and spent many millions of dollars lobbying to keep things the way they are so that sellers just don't question it. And they really don't. But the crazy thing about this is that practically every home seller thinks that 6% is too much and that realtors are overpaid and this and that. But when we present our program, which solves all of those things, they want to know if we're a scam. I don't get that anymore, but in the early days, we got that a lot. But most sellers don't know what they're paying for. And for some reason, they just accept it. They don't like the traditional model, but they keep falling for it because a lot of sellers actually believe that they only have two choices. They can pay the 6% freight and get the old, 100-year-old plan, or they can go for sale by owner. That's it. I mean, we know better. In fact, I said most sellers, not all, not you guys. But what if you don't want or need all of those services? I'll give you an example. You're a professional photographer. So do you get a break on your listing fee if you're a professional photographer and you want to take your own photos? Probably not. I mean, what if you are the person that built the house? What if you just renovated it, completely, tore everything out, studs out, and you completely renovated it? Should you be charged to have someone else show the house who's not going to know it like you? I mean, I disagree. I think that that's probably a terrible idea. And you can maybe talk them into letting you show the house. Maybe that might be a struggle, but I promise you, they're probably not going to discount their fee because of it. And what if you negotiate contracts for a living? I know several people who do this, who are professional negotiators. So do you really need this agent with their whole 3 weeks of real estate school and a couple of deals a year under their belt, if they're lucky? Do you want them negotiating your offer for you? I mean, you can read, you can understand terms, and you probably have a lot more skin in the game than they do. But I promise you again, if you try to negotiate that particular service out, you may or may not have any luck. They may just flat out tell you, no, that's not how it's done. And I'm fairly certain they're not going to mess with their fee just because you want to take on some of the workload. Here's one of my favorites. What if you list with a realtor on Monday, plant the sign in the yard, and then one of your neighbors down the road, who you don't know well, but they know you enough, spots your sign, comes over, and over a beer, you work out the deal. This is how much we're going to pay. These are what we're going to do. And this is when we're going to close and blah, blah, blah. Should you still pay your realtor 6% for planting? Actually, that's all they did, plant the sign in the yard. I don't know, but I know what you signed says that that's exactly what you're going to do. It doesn't matter to them. All right. Their job is to collect 6% at closing. That's their job, no matter what has to happen to make that happen. So if you're keeping score, sellers are forced to accept the same cookie cutter services that traditional 6% realtors have been offering for 100 years. But as Bob pointed out, even though the services are basically the same, every seller pays a different amount. And it's based on some arbitrary number, which happens to be the value of your home. I still don't get it. This is completely backwards. See, in my world, I think the services should be tailored to the client's needs, their situation, and then the fees for each of those services should be set outside the price of the home. It doesn't cost any more to write in a different number. It doesn't cost any more to go into the MLS and type up a listing. It doesn't cost any more to review an offer for an expensive home than it does for a cheap home. It makes no difference whatsoever. But here we are. With traditional 6%, you pay for all of these services, even if you get none of them, and then every seller pays a different price. Folks, I don't understand why we are still talking about this in 2025. I just don't. I'll never get it. I was talking to my good friend Joan. She runs a flat fee brokerage. And just the other day, we were just talking about this whole topic. And I lamented, 25 years ago when I started this office, I legitimately thought within a few years, this is it. We're going to own the entire real estate market. There's no way with seller response, what it was. I mean, we went from 0 listings, unknown in the market. I wasn't even from that area. I was from 30 miles away. But because of a non-compete that I had with RE/MAX, I couldn't open in the market where people knew me. I had to go completely outside of it. So I did. We opened in April. By the end of May, I had 70 listings. I bought 50 signs when I opened thinking, oh yeah, 50 signs, man, I'm a big talker. Imagine my shock when a few weeks in I had to order more. I couldn't believe it. So you can probably imagine also that I'm sitting in my office going, well, at this rate, we should take over the world in about 18 months. Well, here I am all these years later. I don't know if it's me, but I don't think it's just me because Joan and I felt the same way. We cannot believe that all these years in, here we are still fighting to make flat fee the norm. But I digress. This episode of Talking Realty is brought to you by our friends at Associates Title. This team is shaking things up by focusing on what truly matters, putting the customer first. Whether you're buying, selling, or investing, for sale by owner, or working with a realtor, they've got your back with incredible cost savings and the latest tech to streamline the process. Their secure online portal keeps everyone in the loop, from buyers and sellers to lenders and agents, all while keeping your data super safe and communication super crystal clear. If you're getting ready to make a move, don't underestimate the importance of having a great title company in your corner. Check them out today at associatestitleinc.com or give my friend Ryan Phillips a call at 614-419-2418. They are in many states, so even if you're not in Ohio, give them a call. They can probably help you. But don't leave your title company choice to chance, and definitely don't let the buyer or their agent make that choice for you. Okay? Back to the show. Let's move on to the next problem. So this lie, I'm going to call it the experience lie. So even if we accept this one size fits all services model, and even if we accept this sliding tax of 6% commissions and say that that's all acceptable, it's fine. What I'd like to talk about is the value that you get for what you're paying as a seller. So we're just going to pretend we're in a world where we can't do anything about the service model. We can't do anything about the commission. But now I really want to dig in on this, because outside of all those realtors on social media who do nothing but bash their clients, by the way, make fun of for sale by owners, and generally kind of act like those mean cliques in high school, I have yet to meet anyone outside of that group who thinks that realtors are overworked and underpaid. Let me explain. In Ohio, the average home sells for maybe around $300,000, obviously depending on where you are. But let's just take that as a round number. 6% of that is $18,000. So a couple of things. I would like to ask you the last time you went to work and came home with an $18,000 check. Okay, so think about that for a second. Over the years, over the frankly thousands of homes we have sold, we calculate that it takes around 10 hours of actual work from pre-listing all the way through to closing. Some more, some less, but that's a very solid number. In fact, a lot of our internal workings are based on that 10-hour figure. And mind you, during a hot seller's market, i.e. COVID, that number drops significantly because you're not on the market as long and it takes less effort to get the property sold. So that means that the average Ohio seller is paying $1,800 an hour for realtor services. I mean, just think about that for a minute. How many jobs are out there that pay $1,800 an hour? I'm struggling to think of any. There probably are some, but I don't know what they are. But anyway, what about this? If you could think of a few jobs that paid $1,800 an hour, how much schooling, how much experience, how much talent would be required to get one of those jobs and keep it? I'm going to guess it's more than 3 weeks of real estate school and 10 hours of continuing education. Just saying. So maybe they make it up in experience. Maybe that's what you're thinking. Hey, they're probably really experienced and, blah, blah, blah. Wrong. Wrong again. According to the latest numbers, the average realtor in the United States does about 2 deals a year. 2 deals a year. Worse, fully half of the realtors in the United States last year did 0, goose egg. 12 months, no deals. Now, I don't care what you do for a living, but if you only do it between 0 and 2 times a year, which is now the majority of realtors, it's pretty hard to become a master at what you do. So again, $1,800 an hour for something you only do 0 to 2 times a year. I help me with the disconnect, folks, because I don't see it. Oh, wait. Don't the brokers do a bunch of training and teaching? You would think so, but that is actually not the norm, sadly. Since the success rate is so low for realtors and the turnover rate is so high, half of all realtors don't see their first anniversary, and something like 85 to 90% don't make it to 5 years. So statistically speaking, because the turnover rate is bad, so if I hire a couple, 2, 3, 4 agents at the beginning of the year, I know that I have to replace them if I want to grow my business. In fact, I have to replace them plus, because even the ones that make it through the first year probably aren't going to make it through the second, third, and fourth year. So as a result, brokers end up spending a lot of their time and resources just recruiting. They just spend their time looking for new agents or stealing agents from other brokerages. It's another favorite tactic of theirs. And so they're making that choice that in order to keep my business afloat, rather than train who's here because they're probably going to leave, I'm just going to go out and keep finding people to replace them. As Tasia loves to point out, real estate is a lot like an MLM, a multi-level marketing. That, you know, this Amway, or I just dated myself, but I'm sure there's plenty of other MLMs out there that I'm missing. But you know, there's not a lot of training. There's a lot of rah-rah, and there's a lot of painting the blue sky, and oh my God, the amount of money you can make, and then make sure you go bring your friends, and then I'll give you a piece of what they make, and on and on. And this is real. This is what happens. So they just need you to stick around long enough to pay some fees, maybe sell a couple of people that you know, so the broker can collect a fee before you quit or, you know, burn out, whichever. But most agents don't even have enough experience because of this cycle. They don't even know when they're wrong. Agents are running around telling these people all these untruths and half-truths, but they actually believe that they're right. So I'm not sure what happens. Maybe I missed that day in real estate school, but I don't know when the confidence fairy comes down and smacks you on the shoulder, and all of a sudden you have no knowledge, but oodles of confidence. But it's out there. Okay, one more safety net. Aren't brokers supposed to oversee everything their agents are doing? So it's kind of like, even though you're working with the agent, you're really working with the broker, because the broker's got eyes on everything that's happening. I don't have a buzzer sound, but I probably need one, because that's another strike. It is true. Brokers legally, at least in Ohio, are mandated to oversee the activities of their agents, the day-to-day activities. They're supposed to offer regular meetings and training and things like that. But sadly, not the case. You know, in the old days, I would run into like an agent that was completely off the reservation with something they were trying to do, maybe something illegal. And you know, there's a point I can only ignore so much, but when it starts to affect my filing or my world, then I gotta do something about it. So I used to try to work with the agent, try to get him back on track. That was just a total train wreck. Then I would contact their broker thinking, okay, since the broker is ultimately responsible for the behavior of their agents, which is how the law is set up. So any broker who has an agent that goes out and just gets in trouble, that trouble hits the agent and the broker. So I would contact the broker to maybe try to help rein in this character. And nearly every single time, it was just a disaster. It was just a freaking ego fight. And so if the broker bothered to respond at all, they usually had no idea who I was talking about or what I was talking about. I would say, hey, I'm working with so-and-so on such and such deal, and I've got some questions. Well, I don't really know that guy very well, or yeah, I know him, but I don't see him, and I'm not sure what the deal. I haven't seen the file. Okay, so that went nowhere, because a lot of them are very hands off, and a lot of them are completely out of touch with the day to day. Because guess what? Odds are they're probably spending their time on recruiting, as I mentioned earlier. And how do I know this? It's because not one week goes by that some broker isn't trying to get me or somebody on my team to go to lunch, to hop on a call, to do a quick Zoom, or come to their fancy webinar to talk about my future. They don't have time to train. They don't have time to stay into the day-to-day, because they've got other fish to fry. If they don't replace the crashing and burning agents, they're going to be out of business. Now, there are, of course, exceptions to everything I just said. I have met some truly, and in all sincerity, I've met some amazing traditional agents, some really great brokers out there who absolutely do care. They care about their business, they care about their agents, and they care about their clients. But they are in that minority. I think they would even tell you that. But here's the crazy thing. They all charge the same. So how are you, the public, supposed to know who are the good ones? There is no premium rate. There's no real ranking system that's real. Because look, I'll give you a little secret. If you go to their website, you look at their business card, you watch check out their email signatures. These are legendary. You're going to see all sorts of top this, number one that, top 10, top 20, top 50. And you're going to see a bunch of nonsense logos, just like 10 of them. And they all have letters and fancy little certificate looking things. Folks, those are bought and paid for. Because one thing these educators, used very loosely, know is that if you slap something in front of a realtor that makes it look like they're going to get another deal this year, they'll probably snatch it up, especially if it's only $50. So just don't be fooled by all this President's Super Club, certified this or that. It's all baloney. But I have reserved a special place in my heart for the worst of this bunch, which is the traditional agents who are inexperienced, untrained, uninformed, but they come at you like they're right and they're willing to fight you when you tell them otherwise. This is a special group, and unfortunately, there are lots of them. They project this crazy unearned confidence, and they are absolutely terrified when they're out of their depth, which is most of the time. And there's a reason for that, because in this business, they believe that acting like you know what you're doing is more valuable than taking the time and energy to learn it. But this brings me to the next part of my Realtor House of Cards, agent ego and its first cousin, entitlement. Look, I don't mind ego. In fact, I have been rightly accused of having quite the ego myself. Now, I can usually depend on my wife to keep me in check, but she's not always around. So sometimes it gets out of control. But if you come off, I learned this actually from my wife. If you come off like you're never wrong and that you should never be questioned, then you better be perfect. Like all the time and in every single thing you do. Now, I'm wrong a lot. Another thing my mom used to say is keep your words soft because you may have to eat them later. Love that. I don't know where she got that one, but she used to say that a lot. Another favorite of mine was instead of raising your voice, you should get better arguments. Fantastic. I miss her so much. But try telling any of this sage advice to your average traditional realtor. It's an ego business. I mean, think about it. Their faces are literally on signs and billboards and business cards everywhere. I mean, now my face is on a lot of stuff around here. And believe me, we tried it the other way. We tried just going with a logo, and for whatever reason, it wasn't as human. So you get my mugshot. So I apologize for that. But anyway, every agent out there that I know, this is one of the first things they tell you is that you must have your face on everything that you do. Even sign writers, it's the craziest thing. They'll have their face on the sign, then there'll be a little rider above the sign that says open house or something like that. And they stick their face on that too. So you get two faces. Anyway, whatever. So it's an ego business. And now look, this is America. Happy 4th of July, everybody. This is America. If you want to ask for 3% in your offer, I got no problem with that. None whatsoever. But remember, this is a negotiation. I said this in my last episode. Just because you contracted with a buyer to make 3% has nothing to do with me, has nothing to do with my seller. So home sellers, I need you to be prepared for this. You'll see 3%. You'll see all the press that says that sellers no longer have to pay a commission, which by the way was always true. But anyway, you're going to see this. You're going to see the offer come in. It's going to say seller to pay 3% commission. You're going to go, no, I don't think so. And you're going to redline it. Let me tell you what's going to happen. If you go after that commission early, too early in the process, get ready for a tantrum. I tried to think of a better word, but I think this is the best word for it. It is a tantrum. Little kids do this. They throw fits because they are not emotionally mature enough. They're not equipped with the words and the thoughts to sort out a situation without, pounding their fist on the floor in the middle of the grocery store. This is what little kids do. But agents throw fits for honestly the same reason, because they've never learned how to deal with that question. And for so many years, agents never had to really defend their fee other than to say, hey, that's what everybody charges. So yes or no. Now that their fee has been spotlighted a little bit more, they're having to struggle a little more, especially with people like me and people like you guys. When we push back on their commission, they're very ill equipped. Go, tell you what, you want to waste a Saturday, go to social media, go find 20 realtors on TikTok or Instagram. It's almost like realtors have this contempt. My favorite one is the lady who is like, oh, they looked at 30 homes and now they don't want to buy or something like that. And then she's falling face first into the pool. My other favorite is the, oh, these FSBO signs are getting recalled because they don't work. Well, baloney. But this is their attitude, I guess. That's what I'm trying to say. This is their attitude, this entitlement that, oh, you people are so stupid. You don't know what it's like to be a realtor. Well, friend, you probably don't know what it's like to be a realtor, because how much have you really done? How many deals you got under your belt? How many people have you helped? I just have a problem with it, I guess. If you can defend your fee, defend it, but don't get offended when I don't buy it and my sellers don't buy it. This is exactly why we tell sellers during negotiations not to go after the commission until you have to. I have no problem making an enemy out of the buyer's agent, but there's a time and a place to do that. And doing it too early, it's going to cost you the deal. I can basically guarantee you that if you go after the commission too early in the process, that deal is never going to come together. And if it does come together, it's not going to last, because like it or not, when you attack an agent's commission, they're going to find a way to kill the deal. They're going to take their buyer to greener pastures, or at least attempt to. And I have dozens of quotes for situations like this, but here are some of my favorites. Okay, by the way, these actually came from Realtors. Why are they letting agents show it if they don't want to pay the commission? Well, maybe because their goal wasn't to pay a commission. Maybe their goal was to sell the house. Then they kind of thought maybe you were going to negotiate your commission with your client, which is how the rest of the known world does things. Here's another one. Don't your sellers know that 3% is the standard commission? It takes all I have not to just lose my mind when I hear stuff like this. And here's my personal favorite. I still can't believe I got this one. I'm going to take my buyer to a seller who appreciates the value that I bring to the table. Now, this is a $1 million property and a buyer's agent who lowballed with terrible terms. We had no choice but to go after the commission. There was so much wrong with this offer, but we did it. And that was the response we got. Never mind the fact that we were a country mile apart. This is what the agent took away from it. I'm going to take my buyer to a seller who appreciates the value I bring to the table. So I wanted to say I didn't. I left it alone because I'm a grown up. But how do they figure this? Like, my seller is supposed to appreciate the value you bring by representing a buyer. I mean, the last I checked, buyer and sellers have completely different goals, and they very rarely, other than getting to the closing table, buyer and seller goals almost never overlap. So how exactly are you bringing this overwhelming $60,000, $70,000 worth of value to my client, my seller? It's ego, it's entitlement. It's ego, entitlement. Dangerous combination. I have to wonder, is this their only tactic? Like, you push back on the commission, we take our ball and go home. The funny thing is, my seller could counter with a price that's, I don't know, $30,000, $40,000 above their first offer. Agent doesn't bat an eye, but shave a little off that commission and it's on. I'd say it's unbelievable, but this is how things really go down on the ground every day in 2025, and no other industry does it this way. So look, if traditional agents want to charge top dollar for their services, I got no issue with that, but they better bring top level, demonstratable, repeatable, top level results. A bunch of selfies at the closing table, a bunch of fake awards, a bunch of designations ain't going to cut it. Just because that's all we've ever done doesn't mean that's all we get to do. The traditional 6% model, it's not just broken, man. It was born with serious birth defects. And the fact that it's lived this long is a true testament to fear-based marketing and really, really great lobbying. Look, sellers, the old way of doing business is collapsing. It's a slow collapse, but it is collapsing because it never made sense to begin with. And that's a good thing. It's good for you. It's good for transparency. And it's good for those agents and brokers who are actually good at their job. You deserve better. So start demanding it and stop falling for these lies. And with that, I'll let you get back to your day. Thanks for sticking around. Hopefully you learned a little something or maybe had some fun. The Talking Realty podcast is brought to you by the Ohio Property Group, a family-owned company where we sell homes for a low flat fee. Got a question, got a guest, or a topic for a future episode? I would love to hear from you. In fact, right around the corner, our 50th episode, I'm bringing Tasia and Justin into the studio, and we're going to answer real customer questions on the podcast. So please submit your questions. I would love to hear from you. Head to Talking Realty, say hello, or leave us a comment on YouTube. Until next time, keep making smart moves in your real estate journey. For the Ohio Property Group, this is Glen Whitten signing off. And remember, you can sell it. We can help.